Hey everybody, Bonehead for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Blood Bowl 7's roster's Lizardmen. So we're going through every team in Blood Bowl 2020, and we're redoing the 7's roster in line with the newer rules from the Deathzone book. Now, a few things changed for 7's in Deathzone. If you want to have the full details of that, we've got a video so you can go and watch it. It gives a full breakdown. But basically what we're doing is we're applying those rules and using our last 2 years worth of knowledge of playing Blood Bowl 2020 and an unnecessary amount of 7's, and we're putting together some of the best and / most fun rosters for Blood Bowl 7's. Now, I love Blood Bowl 7's. It's my absolute favourite way to play, and quite frankly, Lizardmen are probably one of the better teams for it. So if you are looking for a very powerful team for Blood Bowl 7's, we've got some rosters for you. Okay, so the Lizardmen roster has got a bunch of strengths when it comes to Blood Bowl 7's. Blood Bowl 7's has no line of slaughter, so actually the strength of the Lizardmen that you normally get doesn't exist. The line of scrimmage isn't there. So you find that teams with a good amount of strength still have a nice way to wield it, but movement is almost more important. And what does this team have? Nobody slower than movement 6 and a whole bunch of movement 8 pieces. This team is almost built for 7's, and it's fantastic. So strengths-wise, we've got the Sauruses, the Saurii, the Saurusii. Movement 6, strength 4. Okay, no skills, sure. Their agility is bad. But strength 4, movement 6, the Blood Bowl 7's pitch is 11 squares wide. One Saurus can cover your backfield. 4 Sauruses can get wherever they want, and generally speaking, with the supports given of the linemen here, are always going to be 2-die blocking. Sauruses are brilliant for 7's. Every team would love a Saurus, and I'm not even gonna. They're great. They're just great. They're brilliant for 7's. They've got all the muscle of a Black Orc, but the speed of a Elven lineman, which is technically true. So Skinks are also not bad at 7's. Movement 8 with dodge and stunty and edge 3+. So these guys are the guys who do the stuff in 7's. The big brawlers of the Sauruses and the Croxagore, no agility there. If you're going to try and pick the ball up with those guys, good luck. When it works out though, it's awesome. But the thing is, your fallback plan is a fast goblin. A really fast goblin. At movement 8, these guys can absolutely fly around the pitch. 2 go for it, movement 10 basically. You are only 3 squares short of an instant touchdown. And with the ball landing in no man's land, there are going to be occasions where you may actually be able to pull that off. But the cool thing here is that because you've got those movement 8 and the pitch is so small and you've got a smaller team of 7 opponent players, you're going to be able to take a cheeky 3+ dodge and then use the rest of that movement to get exactly where you want to be. And that's 2 things. 1 is to score the touchdowns, and 2 is to support blocks. Sure, it's a stunty dodge player. You can suicide them in and take a 2-die up. I think it's great fun. But actually what you're going to do here with the Skinks is just use that dodge ability to be able to get the assist that you need wherever you need it. And actually, if you can swing a couple of assists, you can get a really good Skink Blitz, which your opponent will probably not be considering as a factor. And also, you've got the Croxagore, who is also movement 6 and is strength 5 and has mighty blow. He's got Bonehead, which, to be fair, as far as big guys go, is the best deal you can get. So this guy is able to mooch around at the speed of a rat ogre and hit with the power of an ogre, with the extra benefit of having prehensile tail, which is really underrated. 2+, this guy can move anywhere, and with movement 6, he can move anywhere. And if you base a guy, even a stunty player, that prehensile tail is going to be a real pain. If you're up against dodgy goblins or whatever, actually, chuck in that guy next to them. That goblin's now a 4++ dodge, okay, which I'll admit is still 75% chance, but a 4+ with a reroll is always a risky play to make, and actually that can cause a turnover, which can basically just give you a free turn. So the Croxagore hits like a truck, but that prehensile tail is going to be really useful in 7's. Now, there are some weaknesses here, and medium agility is something that I flagged up, and I think we've already kind of talked about it. If your Skinks go down, you are short on people who can do the whole bowl part of Blood Bowl. Loads of blood. Yeah, but the bowl bit where you're picking up the ball can be a bit of a challenge. And the fact is that one of the cool positionals on this roster, the Chameleon Skink, is a positional on this roster. So if you take a Chameleon Skink, you're going to lose out on some of your muscle. Everything is a balancing factor, but your agility needs to be a real concern. With most sevens rosters, you're thinking, man, I wish I could take more positionals. But with this team, you want to be careful not to take too many positionals because you do need those guys who can pick up the ball, and they are not the most resilient. Okay, armor 8+ is fine, but they do have Stunty and they are strength 2. So your opponent's basically going to be 2-die blocking them forever, and if they land a hit, then they're on good odds to actually kill them. So be aware of that. Expensive rerolls, yeah. In sevens, rerolls are doubled, so it's really difficult to get that reroll into the roster. And quite frankly, the Lizardmen team itself is a really expensive positional team. Skinks, the linemen, are 60k, so being able to squeeze in linemen and positionals and a double priced reroll is really challenging. Now, we've done it for you, but we'll be able to kind of really demonstrate that trade-off between reroll and positionals, and that's basically where you land on the Lizardmen team. And no sure hands. So sure hands is a skill that is probably above all when it comes to premium when in Blood Bowl 7s. Okay, you do need a reroll to pick up the ball every now and again. Having sure hands gives you that all the time. Block is always the best skill, dodge is the second best skill, but in sevens, top 3 is definitely sure hands because it is going to save you so often. And because the field is open, because you don't necessarily have all that contact zone to gum up the ground, if you fail a pickup in sevens and you don't have a reroll because they're expensive, it can be a bit of a situation that can lead to a bit of a blowout. Okay, so on to the first roster for Lizardmen. We've gone with the max strength roster here, which is 1 Croxagore, 3 Saurus blockers, 3 line skinks, and it comes in at 575. So 7 players on this roster. You've got 25k left to play with. There's not a huge amount you can do with it on this roster except take a coach or a cheerleader. This is sevens, guys, so taking that coach is going to give you +1 to the die roll if you roll a 7 on kickoff, and is 1 in 6 kickoffs is going to end up with brilliant coaching. If you've got an assistant coach, you've got a chance to kind of swing that extra reroll. So there will be some games where that is a 20k reroll, and you're going to be very, very, very glad. Anyway, let's talk about the team. We've got the big boy, the Croxagore. So I've talked about why the Croxagore is really good in Blood Bowl 7s, but actually it can be even better. If you are playing League, chances are you'll be using the Deathzone rules and you'll be taking random normals and random double skills. Sorry, that's random primary and random secondary skills. Do you know what? If you put a random skill on a Croxagore, it may be good, it may be bad. But if you are playing what I believe to be the best way of playing sevens, which is in a kind of either an expansion league or a constructed Blood Bowl league, you might get to choose skills. Now, lizards are rightfully tier 1, so the chance of you getting very many secondaries are pretty low. But if you do get a chance to take a secondary on a Croxagore, obviously block is the correct choice. Block is always the correct choice to put on a big guy, and when your big guy is movement 6 and can run around and stack people the way the Croxagore can with just Bonehead, then it is just an absolute no-brainer. Block will protect him and block will unprotect your opponent. Now there's also Pro, which is an underrated skill when it comes to big guys. Your big guy needs to do a thing. It fails his Bonehead on a 1. On a 3+, you can use Pro to re-roll that. Now, Pro becomes even better in Blood Bowl 7s, so you can kind of consider that for any one of your positionals, but when it comes to the big guys, you've got that kind of trade-off. The Pro here is going to keep the Croxagore moving, the block is going to keep the Croxagore standing. I'd rather take block, but I play a bit fast and lose sometimes. Now, the chances of that even being an option are very limited, so you're likely to have a strength skill available. Quite frankly, though, the Croxagore doesn't need a skill. It doesn't need a skill. It's movement 6 already. It's got Bonehead, which is the best of the negatrates. And you've still got strength 5 to get a consistent 2-die block. And you've got mighty blow to keep your opponent on the ground if you make that block. Now, a couple of skills you can use to upgrade him is that Juggernaut skill if you are going to be using your Croxagore as your big guy blitzer. It is risky to blitz with the big guy because as soon as you say big guy blitz or Bonehead blitz, you're going to roll a 1 and that will be at the end of the action. But if you can put it off, blitzing with this guy with 2 dice and Juggernaut is going to allow you to block, turn that both down into a push and keep you standing and just create a bit more space. Guard is a brilliant alternative, though. We've already talked about the fact that this dude's got a ton of movement. Bonehead is pretty reliable, and putting him next to targets is a really good thing already because of prehensile tail. So if you stick a guard prehensile tail big guy next to a dude, they're in trouble. They can dodge away, but it's going to be -1. If they don't dodge away, every one of your players is going to be +1 strength against that target. Having a big guy able to put in guard and just support your others is really beneficial. It is a technically safer way of doing it than blitzing with the big guy. If you watch 7 Super Series, you'll understand. It can be really tempting to go, I want a 2-die blitz with that Croxigor, please, and then you roll a 1. If you go, I'm going to move with the Croxigor, and you roll a 1, well, the Croxigor loses his tackle zone, can't use guard, and he's out of the way, but you haven't lost your blitz action. If it works, that guard goes on the target and is going to give +1, and you're probably going to be able to swing a 2-die block with somebody else, which is going to be automatic, and you won't have loner if you do have a reroll. So guard is really good on big guys, even in 7s, but quite frankly, your other players could use the skill a bit more. And those other players are the Saurus blockers. So I love the players that are called blockers because they, generally speaking, don't have block, and that is the skill that they really want. Now, these guys are brilliant, right? Movement 6, strength 4. When they're blocking, they want to be great. They're going to be rolling 2 dice against most targets, and block is going to keep them standing. And quite frankly, if they go down, they've still got movement 3 when they stand up, but actually having block is going to maximize everything that they do. Their speed and their strength is going to be brilliant. It's going to turn them into just insanely good blitzers. And if you want a more defensive build, block is still going to be, I think, the best skill, but tackle will never go amiss in 7s. Every roster is going to find a way to get some dodge. Undead, ghouls, goblins everywhere, right? And those pesky gutter runners. So having tackle is going to mean that 2-die block is going to hit hard. And if they've got block, it doesn't, it's a tough one. Like, technically, I think if you block against a dodge person versus tackle without block, I think it's around about the same odds. Block is going to keep you standing. Tackle's going to take them down. So that's kind of the trade-off. And you can also go guard with the Saurus blocker, and quite frankly, with movement 6, you're going to be able to position them where they want to be. But I'm not even going to hide the lead here, guys. When it comes to the Saurus blockers, making them Saurus blockers with block is really the best thing to do here. Now, the Line Skinks are brilliant players. Movement 8, Edge 3+, Dodge Stunty means that they can absolutely fly around. They are vulnerable, and if you leave them unattended, they can get splatted quite nicely. But you will, generally speaking, only give your opponent 1 crack at a Lizardman Skink. And that's it. That's their only chance. They get 1 attempt to knock him out. If it doesn't work, you're off to the races. So there's some great skills you can give a Skink. Sure Feet, Sprint, and Sidestep are just going to make them even faster. That's not at a premium, though. The skills for this roster should be going to those blockers. And then maybe the Croxigor if you want. Sure Feet, Sprint, Sidestep are great fun, and if you're in the realm of randoms on these guys, then that can be really good, but it's not at a premium and it's not a priority. If you get a chance at a double skill, however, you can start building some really cool players. Now, if you are playing 7s League and you get the option to take a random secondary skill, General, on a Line Skink, I don't think there's really any bad options. Block is going to be great. Sure Hands is going to be great. Tackle will be useful every now and again. Frenzy's good. Wrestle's good. Dauntless is good. Kick is great in 7s. So a random general skill for a Skink, absolutely aces. If you get to pick one, though, really consider either block to make this guy a very hard to tackle scoring threat and also a bit of a optimistic sneaky blitzer, or Sure Hands to just get that integral reroll just for all of the time picking up the ball with that 1 Sure Hand Skink. The other thing you can do is use that secondary skill to take leader and sneak 1 reroll into this roster, because you've got a coach, but that's not going to be all the time. But a leader reroll will be at least until that guy dies. And we're going to flex the roster ever so slightly. That's a great place to start. And what else can we do with it? You can drop the Croxigor, take another Saurus blocker, so you're taking away the strength 5 mighty blow piece, but you're also taking away that Bonehead letdown opportunity. Now you're going to be sat with 4 strength 6 guys, 4 strength 4 guys instead of 4 and a strength 5. But you gain enough cash to purchase another line skink. So the vulnerability that we had from having only 3 skinks and therefore no bench goes away with this roster. Now there's a little thing you can flex here, but what this gives you is an opportunity to run 3 hench dudes and 4 speedsters as an alternate build. So if you need to score in 2 turns, actually you get the flexibility to drop a Saurus and add a skink instead, which is brilliant. And then in the second half, when 1 or 2 of your skinks is dead, you've still got some players to go there. A canny opponent will target your skinks even in 7s, and if they can take out 1 or 2 of them when you've only got 3, it's going to put a lot of stress on you to be able to actually score. If you've got 4, then you're going to be able to just take that hit. Lose 2 skinks, you've still got 2 brilliant scoring opportunities. Or you can drop a skink, go 4 and 3 skinks, similar to the last roster, and have an extra 60k that you can put with the 20k that we're spending on a coach here, and take a coach and a desperate measures. Now, desperate measures are great fun. Some are a little bit average, some are a little bit overpowered, but if you're playing with the desperate measure rules, actually consistency, the 4th line skink is the right thing to do. But if you want a bit of narrative entertainment, dropping that skink number 8 and just taking a desperate measure along with that coach is going to give you a quite interesting game. But there is another player on this roster, the Chameleon Skink. So as we flex the starting point a little bit more, we've got the mixed Crocs roster. We've got 1 Croxagore, 2 Saurus blockers, 3 line skinks, and a Chameleon Skink here. So the Crocs is doing Crocs things. You've got 2 Saurus blockers. So you've gone from 4 heavy hitters to just 3. You've still got now 4 Edge 3 pieces. So you've still got that resilience in being able to maneuver the ball. Your team is less strong now, but with 3 heavy hitters, including a big guy, you should be able to brawl with most teams. If you think about a team like Orcs or Black Orcs, if they take the Troll, actually you're going to be left with a couple of strength 4 pieces. You're going to be able to brawl with most other teams still at this point. But what you do get is that Chameleon Skink. Now the Chameleon Skink, I think, is again an underrated player in 11s, but in 7s it has got a sneaky opportunity to succeed here. So its ability is hampered by the fact that it's only got movement 7 instead of movement 8, but on the ball is going to allow you to move this dude 3 squares to collect that ball. So essentially it kind of gives him 10 squares of movement on the first play. Now you can kind of level him up in a couple of different ways. If you give him catch, there is a high likelihood that this guy is going to be able to be under the ball when it lands on your kickoff. And it's going to give you a free opportunity to grab that ball before the drive is even started. Now, I stand by the fact that sure hands is a great skill, but catch is an agility skill that you can get. You can put it on there and it will help with the stretch play. It will help him receive the ball when it comes in, and actually it just combos really nicely. If your opponent is going to go for a throwing play, that OTB ability allows him to, again, make 3 squares of movement. He's got shadowing as well, but I'm not convinced that's a brilliant skill. But in 7s it's going to come into play more often than 11s, because in 11s if you put a Chameleon Skink on a dude, the dude's going to punch him back. In this 7s variant, there's a lot more Edge 2 pieces that you want to put shadowing on. With movement 7, it's got good odds to actually shadow most things. It's going to struggle to chase a gutter runner down, but at least you get a chance to roll that dice. And every time you succeed with shadowing, you force your opponent to make 1 more dodge roll, and in a format where there are very few rerolls, the more dice you can make your opponent roll, the more chance of them just ending their turn. And that is very, very useful. So the Chameleon Skink on this roster I really like. Actually, it's going to speed up your offense. You do lose that 4th brawler guy, basically your 4th bruiser, your 4th big hitter, but you make up for it with a little bit of cool character and actually a really good start to an offensive drive. This roster comes in at 560, so again we've got 40k in the kitty. If you're playing League, consider dedicated fans. If you're not playing League, then chuck it in for that coach. 2 coaches, that's +2 to the roll, 1 in 6 times. It's going to be brilliant coaching. There's a good chance you're going to swing a reroll off that. Now, we did say the most fun rosters as well as the best rosters, and we've got 2 more for you. The first one is K Stunty, so we're kind of leaning into the Stunty vibe here. We've gone with the Croxagore, 5 skinks and 2 chameleon skinks. So we've got 1 skink bench, we've got 6 guys on the field who are movement 7 or movement 8 with Edge 3+, and you've got the Croxagore. This roster brings you in at 580, and you can take a coach to kind of tip that over the edge. You can in fact drop a skink and take a desperate measure, very much like we talked about earlier. Now this roster is going to be super fast, and it is going to be very fast and very, very, very fluid. You do have that Croxagore to go one-on-one with targets, so if you're playing against a mid-range team, you're probably going to be okay, because that Croxagore is going to be able to take out a strength 4 piece, maybe a strength 5 piece, because you've got all those players with all that movement and all that dodge and stunty. You are going to be fluid, and your opponent is going to feel like pushing water up a hill when trying to stop you from getting to where you want to go. The downside of this roster is that if your opponent does catch you in any way, shape or form, your skinks will start to die. And if this is a format you're playing where there are chosen skills, look out for the guy with tackle. Every team should probably have one, and that's going to be bad news for your skinks. But with movement 7, movement 8, it's going to be super fast, and everyone loves a bit of an underdog, and this is as close to a broken underdog roster as you can get. Except for maybe this one. So instead of the Crocs, we've got a reroll. 5 line skinks, 2 chameleon skinks, and a reroll brings you to 580. You take that coach. It's only 7 players, so you can't flex a stunty dude out to take a desperate measure. This is a bad idea, but there will be some of you out there that can make this absolutely work, because it just trying to stop skinks is so challenging. On offense, this roster is going to be a bit of a nightmare to stop. On defense, this is going to be a bit of a nightmare to use, and that 1 reroll is going to be well burnt trying to take an optimistic, maybe 1 die, but probably 2 die up block. So you can run it. It's going to be great fun if you have a regular 7s night where you play 2-3 games an evening. Take this one or K Stunty and just have a really good time, because there you are going to pull off some shenanigans. You are going to win a game you shouldn't win, and this is going to give you basically the Stunty experience with NOS. So when it comes to picking a roster to win, it is either max strength or the 4-4 build. You are not getting a reroll when it comes to running lizards. There's probably some creative accounting that you can do to make it work, but you're going to miss out on so much to make it happen. So max strength gives you that big guy. Now the Croxagore is the most reliable of big guys, right? Excellent speed, but 1 in 6 turns is just going to do nothing at all, which is going to be 2 turns, 1 turn and a half basically in 7s. Feels like the Bonehead roll fails more than that, so it is a massive vulnerability. But this is kind of where you read the meta of 7s. If you want to be consistent and in control of your actions, then the 4-4 build is better for you. You've got 4 strength 4 pieces, and you've got 4 movement 8 edge 3+ pieces. You've got resilience when it comes to your ball carriers. If you want a little bit more combat power, a little bit more high octane, you can go a little bit higher than your opponents and take the max strength roster, but you will be more vulnerable on your low end when it comes to the wee guys. So you can kind of choose your own poison. The 4-4 build, I think, is probably the technically better one, but the Croxagore build is going to be the one that's the most satisfying, because when you lumber in and hit with that Strength 5 Mighty Blow and remove a player, it is just going to snowball quicker than anything. So max strength if you want to dominate your opponents, the 4-4 build if you want to go toe-to-toe with them and give yourself options. It's really down to what kind of a Blood Bowl player you are, and if you're an absolute stunty mad lad, then K Stunty will be a super fun way to do things. Or you can challenge yourself with the all skink with a reroll build. I love 7s and I love lizards because you will always get a chance to win with them. You're going to die some, your Croxagore is going to let you down some, but that's just the universe trying to make the fact that your linemen are movement 8. So that's just fairness, and in the world of Blood Bowl, that's pretty few and far between. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up now. Let me know what you think of lizards in Blood Bowl 7s, and we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy dodging. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content. We get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.